This is Europe at the beginning of the 20th century, and it was a time when there was a heap of excitement at the emergence of new technologies. Whether it was steel construction or human flight or the first automobiles, the possibilities seemed endless. However, people unfortunately have a habit of taking good things and then preparing to hurt other people with them, and Europeans were certainly doing this with steel, aircraft and with land vehicles in massive amounts. Countries competed to outdo each other in building up weapons, and this arms race led to a process called militarisation. Militarisation meant countries thought a bit about actually going to war to prove they had the best toys, and this tense environment helped contribute to World War One. World War One actually began with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Its heir, an archduke named Franz Ferdinand, was going on tour in a province that was only reluctantly part of this empire. From this province, Bosnia, came a young man named Gavrilo Princip, and he really wanted Bosnia to be part of another country called Serbia. So he spent some time in Serbia with a gang, aka terrorist organisation, called the Black Hand, and they trained him up to go back and cause trouble in Bosnia, which he did by assassinating the Archduke while he was on tour. This region was called the powder keg of Europe, meaning it had the potential to blow the continent up. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand proved to be the spark for this explosion. Because what happened next was that Austria-Hungary made a whole heap of demands of Serbia, holding the whole country responsible for the actions of the terrorists who trained there. Serbia couldn't meet all of these demands, so Austria-Hungary prepared for war. However, Serbia's population came from a northern European people known as the Slavs. So did Russia's population, and the Russian Empire historically saw it as their duty to protect other Slavic people. So seeing that war was approaching, Russia began to mobilise its army, getting its troops, food, supplies and ammunition ready to attack the Austro-Hungarians. So it was clear that when Austria-Hungary attacked Serbia, Russia would be there too. This led Austria-Hungary's close allies, Germany, to declare war on the Russians alongside the Austro-Hungarians, putting most of Eastern Europe at war with each other. However, to make matters more complicated, the Russians had a protection agreement with France, as both countries were concerned with the way Germany had been militarising in recent years. Germany knew about this agreement, so it knew that it would need to deal with both countries at once. Germany also knew that France's borders were well prepared for a war with Germany, so they had to be sneaky. Now, Belgium didn't have much of an army, so Germany believed that by sending their troops through Belgium, they would catch the French off guard at the northern border. This did in fact work, and for a time the French army suffered heavy defeats by the approaching German armies. But there was another twist. Great Britain had promised that it would protect Belgium if they were ever attacked by anyone, so they now declared war on Germany. This meant that most of Western Europe was now at war, and in fact very soon nearly all of Europe was pulled into the conflict, with the notable exception of Switzerland, who was famous for its neutrality. So the alliances broadly looked like this. Germany, Austria and Hungary and eventually the Ottomans were on one side, with most countries on the other. Italy initially allied itself with the Central Powers, as the pink countries here were known, but switched sides before it actually started fighting when it thought it might be able to grab some of Austria-Hungary's land in the conflict. Now, how the fighting goes here is for a discussion another time. Spoilers though is that there was lots of fighting in trenches. Eventually there's a stalemate and Germany calls for a ceasefire when the US finally gets involved on the Allies' side, and this leads to the discussions at Versailles. But what this video is really about is the causes of World War One, and there are 4 key words that will help you remember the main causes. The first is militarisation, remembering the way that countries had heavily built up their weapons in readiness to show who the boss was. Secondly is alliances, referring to the web of promises made by countries to protect and aid each other in war. Imperialism refers to the way that empires were trying to assert their power and authority over others, like Austria-Hungary did to Bosnia and Serbia. And finally, nationalism shows how ethnic and language groups, like Princip and his Serbians, were trying to assert their independence against the ruling empires. Together, these factors help us describe how World War I commenced and descended into the most devastating conflict that the Earth had seen to this point in history.